Okay guys, I got my bucket in the mail for our Mini X. I got my quick coupler on, and I'm gonna clear up some things. People were asking about pins. Everybody says get 1 inch. I got 1 inch bolts here. And you mic it 1 inch. Problem is your threads, hold on, I gotta get the threads are actually a hair bigger. As you can see, it just doesn't quite fit. And you really don't want to sand your threads down. I guess you could knock a tiny bit off, but I mean, it doesn't quite fit. So 1 inch doesn't really work. I believe I got my other bolts here for my rake. I think they're 7/8, I think, fits. And it doesn't matter because I have a quick coupler, so they can be a tiny bit smaller or whatnot. Now, if you're going through your bushing, you'd want it closest fit as possible so you don't beat out your bushing, which quick coupler has these nice pins with Carter pins, which I'd like to find. Well, the problem with these buckets, they all have this like washer thing on there, so if this bucket's pretty nice. I got this, I'll post the guy's email. He's in a lot of these Chinese mini excavator groups, and they sell these buckets. That's kind of weird right there. But it's got a nice round tubing up here. It's got these welded in. They're sort of like bushings. They're kind of welded in the bucket, as you can see. But technically, if it wears out, you can knock that out and just get another piece of like Schedule 80 pipe and put in there. Not really this side, but that side has it. The idea would be to get a piece of this pipe, but longer, stick out longer on this side, where you can drill and put a pin, just like the quick coupler. That'd be pretty nice. You ain't gotta worry about nuts, bolts, you know, the dirt rubs by it. You might lose a Carter pin, but it ain't like this, where you get these big old bolts, which I can get a pin and put in here and whatnot. We ran the auger, it worked a little bit, seemed a little slow. Is that leaking now? I got the valve off. I got my thumb off. I'm gonna see if I can find a hydraulic one, maybe. But when I tested it, when I put my thumb all the way up with the pin, it was still just like right here. It wasn't up like normal. So that's odd to me. So. But here's the bucket. Welds aren't too bad. Tooth is, I don't know. I feel it's kind of weird for this. I may modify it. I may cut the tooth and make it a cutting edge, basically. I don't know if I need this tooth. Well, I guess it depends what you're digging in. It is a hair crooked, but I mean, well, it's on there pretty tight. It's just kind of a slotted hole that it's in. All in all, it seems like a pretty decent bucket. Got an extra thick leading edge here and here. I kind of roll bended it. It's not very big. I don't know. Here's a Milwaukee impact driver. This is for like screws and stuff, but it's pretty powerful. Works on these bolts. But it seems pretty decent. So we're going to use these pins. I'm just going to put them through the bucket, tighten them down. Make sure I don't bend my ears. As a welder, I wish they would have welded here. They just welded on both sides and left the front part, which that's a part where it can begin to tear the weld off. They should have wrapped it, made it a little bit stronger, stouter. Same thing at the bottom, they didn't wrap it down there either. So I may have to, after a while, grind that out a little bit and wrap it. We'll see. Basically, I'm only digging, when I first start, I'm only gonna be digging a little bit. As I back up, I'll slowly dig deeper. I haven't really used one of these buckets. I'll insert a video over here where it rains a lot and it just runs. They have drainage pipe. When I moved into the house, they put drainage pipe, the previous owner, from the gutters, but it's just full of dirt, and some neighbor's dog was tearing it out. So for practice with this bucket, we'll start here by the sidewalk, and we'll dig on down and see how it works. we'll get it installed. Let me get the pins on here, and we'll put on a quick coupler. Don't mind the chickens, they're chickens, so they always make all kinds of crazy sounds. Yeah, the 7/8 bolt fits into the hex right here. Now, don't fit in this one. That's odd. It fit in my other one. Maybe it's got paint in it. But my rake, this bolt fit right into the little nuts there. See, my bucket, it came with the machine. It has these kind of pins. Pin goes in and it has a bolt. So it's pretty nice where you don't have to worry about this hex nut stuff. It don't quite fit, but I think maybe paint. And then there's a lot of slop right there. So not much quality control with the Chinese stuff, I imagine. So can be hard to tighten it down. It's not really in the groove, but that's all right. I just needed to hold the bucket on, and then I'll get... Oh wait, it fits in that one. I don't know. So yeah, poor quality control. It fits in the other bottom one. You gotta be careful if you're using an back driver. When you're tightening these down, you can squash your ears in. So. All right, guys. At this point, my microphone has died, and I haven't figured it out, I guess. So we're just installing the bucket with the quick coupler. Pretty straightforward. Just hook it on there, take your wrench and impact gun, and just tighten the bolt down. This bolt's I've noticed is starting to wear through the end, actually. So I'm gonna have to take that apart, probably try to put a washer on there. And then, as you can see, which I didn't notice, the nut is spinning. The quick coupler, I don't know, it does not seem like it's really worth the money unless you have a machine like mine where the bolt, like the pins, are way different than all the other machines. So I'll play some music from now on where you can just kind of watch it dig. I'm just kind of, and I do hope you enjoy. Sorry about the sound. It's always one thing after another, but gotta keep on keeping on. The bucket doesn't look too bad. All right, guys, here it is. I don't want to go too deep because I'm kind of explaining how I want it to round out, and eventually I'm going to concrete it. Right now, I'm just getting it dug so we can get some water flowing, and I didn't want to go too deep because I'm not 100% where the water line is around here. I'm just explaining where we're going to build a retaining wall around that, and it's got to get sealed and painted, and moving a lot of dirt in. I think after a little bit, I noticed the mic is off. Oh, I'm just kind of running my mouth here, so appreciate you guys for watching. Do like and subscribe, and let me know how you what you think of the bucket. I just used it a little bit. I have a ditch between the fence line I do have to work on, so it will be a much deeper one. And it's not going to stay V-shaped for real long. The water will round it out, but you can make a good drainage ditch with less material removed. But thank you guys, and I do appreciate it. And I will catch you on the next video. All right, guys, my mic is dying. I don't know how much of that I got, so I'm going to just make it real quick. We got our trenches done. It's all dug out pretty decent. I'm just going to come back and rake and round it. And eventually we're going to have to put a different kind of drainage in and everything. If you like this bucket, I'll leave the guy's email in the description. And have a safe one. And you guys in Texas, watch out for that tornado or twister or whatever the hell they call them.